Coming up, let's learn how the Internet of Things is driving the next wave of innovation from Brendan O'Brien, cloud billing inventor and co-founder of Aria Systems.
You're watching YBL TV.
In the past year, Google has scooped up companies that specialize in smart appliances, machine learning. We've got Audi automobiles, Samsung washers and dryers, Philips light bulbs, all communicating with and being controlled by our smartphones. Brendan, what can businesses do today to best prepare for the Internet of Things?
And by the way, Nest is another example. They bought Nest and, home automation. That was a big purchase for them and very much an IoT play. So in terms of what businesses can do to prepare, the number one thing to think about from a system standpoint is the volume of data that is going to be produced by all these IoT devices. That is the number one concern. And when I say that, obviously, as you know, my company specializes in recurring revenue, so my concern is not solely based on how usage or consumption data that comes from IoT devices and services might influence a bill, which it certainly does. Your cell phone bill is a perfect example of your calls cost something, right? It's also the primary way that you, the provider of service, can analyze the behaviors of your customers, right? The good news about IoT is, look, we're approaching commoditizability of this hardware, right? The reason we're talking about all that stuff is because RFID technology is cheap and easy to use and easy to implant in anything. The ubiquity and availability of Wi-Fi is available everywhere. If these weren't true, IoT would not be a discussion point. But because they're true and they're cheap, we're here. The good news is that makes it really easy, relatively speaking, to go to market with an IoT device or service. The bad news is it makes it really easy for everybody else. There's going to be a very rich competitive landscape around these things. Home automation, wearable devices, a lot of people are going to be coming out, a lot of companies are going to be coming out with their own plays in this regard. So the companies that are going to win are the ones who are going to recognize that it's not going to be about the device itself. That's an enabling technology, right? If you install Apple TV, it costs you whatever it is, you forget about the device purchase, right? It is a conduit, Apple TV, for you to then leverage the services they offer. Whether you like or don't like Apple TV is based on the service you get from it versus the physical box itself. You follow me? So, sorry if I'm putting my hand in front of your camera. So, my point is that companies have to think about the nature of their go-to-market service that these devices enable much more than the device. If I get a wearable wristband that's able to monitor, say, my heartbeat and alert a physician if I have an elevated heart rate, I'm going to care much more about that service than the $29.99 I spend on the band. You follow? So how a company is able to deliver service to the market that customers want, that is at a price point that they like, that's structured in a way that they like, comes first by analyzing and understanding the volumes of data that these IoT devices are pumping out the door. One of the examples I always point out is that a Boeing 777 flying from JFK to Heathrow has 4 engines on it. In that one trip, each engine produces 1 terabyte of data. Now, it's all sorts of data, right? All different kinds of things. And those things may or may not be particularly obviously meaningful or useful, but you don't know in advance of all of your potential go-to-market strategies what will ultimately be useful and meaningful or not. So what you have to think about now is get all the data, get all of it. A lot of it's coming out. You need to encompass all of it, attribute it all to the users of this data, because even if you're not going to use that data to directly bill them, A, you're going to be able to understand their buying habits so you can go to market more effectively and beat the competition, because that's how you're going to beat them, not based on the device, but based on the way you go to market. And B, you're going to give your product managers a lot of insight into how to craft these offerings in ways that are desirable to your market.
Monetization of things, then. Where do you guys fit into the picture, and how can you help businesses get that going?
Yeah. So, I mean, the good news for Aria is we built a recurring revenue platform, and we did it 12 years ago, long before we were talking about the things we're talking about today, obviously. We didn't actually have to do anything special from a system standpoint to be there for the Internet of Things. The nature of the Internet of Things is that the services that these devices provide lend themselves very naturally to recurring revenue business models. So the example we talked about with Nest, right? Nest is a home automation system. Whatever it is you pay for these appliances that you then install in your home, That's a one-time purchase that then enables access to a recurring revenue service that you need to actually, bill your customers for, turn on, turn off, measure their usage of that service. Our system does that. That's what it's always done. So when IoT came along, we went, oh my gosh, look at this world that's coming, and we're already sort of pre-positioned for it very nicely.
Let's talk about Philips Medical, one of your clients. How have they really been successful in this arena?
So they're one of our favorite use cases. Philips Medical, actually the imaging division, makes very, very expensive, high price point imaging equipment. CAT scan machines, MRI machines. These things cost millions of dollars. Because they cost millions of dollars, the hospitals that buy them are usually very wealthy, big city hospitals. Well, once a big city hospital buys this equipment and installs it and starts using it, they don't, tend to go back to market to buy another piece of equipment anytime soon. So what happened was Philips Medical realized they pretty much saturated the market because small regional hospitals can't afford these machines. So some very forward-thinking innovators at Philips Medical realized that a great business opportunity for them would be to embed IoT technology in these imaging machines, very inexpensive technology, and to be able to offer them to small regional hospitals on basically a pay-per-scan basis. So now, a hospital in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, let's say, a small town that's outside of Philadelphia, which used to have to put people on a helicopter and fly them to Philadelphia to get a CAT scan, can now have that machine on their own premise, no longer taking the chopper ride to Philadelphia, and instead of paying out the capital expenditure of multi-millions of dollars for that piece of equipment, they're simply paying Philips Medical based on how many scans and images that machine produces.
How about the safety, the security of all of this information in the cloud with billing? There's got to be a lot of risk, right?
Yeah, there's a huge amount of risk. And look, we obviously, there are a lot of security standards in place today, and those standards are continuing to be leveraged. My fear is that with the volume, A, the volume of data that's coming, and B, with the necessity to share data among multiple providers, that the current security standards around data sharing may not scale. So an example I like to talk about is if you think about your connected car, right? And a lot of people are talking about connected cars. You mentioned Audi, one of our customers as well. That's great stuff. But the real vision for connected cars is for connected cars to talk to connected municipalities. So wouldn't it be cool if that car could say, hey, you're looking for a parking spot, there's one around the corner, park there, and then when you park there, for the connected car to pay the meter for you so you don't have to drop coins in a thing, right? I mean, that's the ideal, but in order for that to work, you've got various manufacturers of connected cars that need to be able to speak to various municipalities. Are the silos that we tend to construct in a modern American and in fact global business, where we pre-build partnerships, are they going to scale in that world where random cars are going to random cities and sharing data across? And that's just one very small example, right? Another example is a wearable device I mentioned before that say monitors my vital statistics. If it detects an unhealthy condition and I'm on the road, the promise of that device from a technology standpoint is that it's going to be able to alert the nearest hospital, download my medical records from my primary physician to that nearest hospital, contact a local ambulance service, make sure the medical records are on board at that ambulance so that when they arrive to pick me up, and this could all happen before I even realize that I'm in a dangerous condition. Well, look at all the players that are involved in that, right? There's the ambulance, there's the hospital, there's my physician, there's the provider of the bracelet and the service, right? There's my insurance company. That's a lot of data, and a lot of data flying among God only knows how many different, participants in that overall process. So, do our security and scalability standards permit that kind of sharing at that level of volume while maintaining security? I'm not sure they do. There are people that are working on those standards. Let's hope they get there quickly.